episode of Breach of Etiquette, your Legend of the Five Rings podcast. This is going to be the second part of our Emperor Edition retrospective, and this time we will be focusing on art with the L5R art director, Adrian Burton. Adrian?
Hey.
So one of the very big things that has happened with Emperor Edition is that L5R has a full-time art director whose sole concern really is L5R art. For players, especially those who played in earlier arcs, we know that this is not something that has really been the case very frequently, which leads to some, let's say, questionable calls for L5R art. So, Adrian, why don't you tell us about how you got started? What was your sort of first set with L5R, and what sort of led you to become sort of where you are now?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. So I've been playing the game, for a long time, probably since I was about 15. And I actually was the one that pestered Steve into starting to draw for the game and to try and get into it.
Steve Argyle,
yeah. And so long after that happened, at some point we were just joking around one night and talking about, oh man, it'd be really cool to work on the game. It would just be fun. And we found out about a week later that they were actually looking for the art director. And Steve's kind of jokingly said, oh man, I wish I could do that. I just don't have the time. I've got the chops and the credentials for it. I just don't have the time to really put into all of it. And I sat there going, oh man, I've got the time. I don't really have the credentials, but I would love to just work on it. And we basically said, well, let's just apply as a team and we'll see what happens. And surprisingly, they called us, and they really liked the fact that, I was a player, he was an artist, and we went through the interview process, and yeah, we got the job. So the first set that we worked on was basically Emperor. We came in after just the first round of sketches for Emperor had been completed. And most of the strongholds and the champions were more or less done at that point. We had a little input on them, but they were mostly completed. The first full set that we did together, I believe, was Embers of War.
So what's the art process like for the people who aren't familiar with it?
So what happens is we get a schedule, and it basically lays out when the set's going to be coming out, and we get a design document from Brian Reese, the head designer. Basically tells us what cards are going to be in the set, and they have basic names or concepts for their names. They're usually never final unless it's like an experienced personality. And we do a call out. We give people about a week to respond and say, hey, this is how many cards I could take within the time frame allowed. And then we do assignments based on what we know the artist kind of likes to do, what they're a little more specialized in. So if you got someone who's really good at landscapes and buildings, we try and give them holdings and terrains. And we got people that are really good at characters. We try and give those for personalities and whatnot. There's some people that are really good at items. There's some folks that their face work needs a little bit of practice, but they do really good body work. So we try and give them like scorpion personalities with cool masks. And then so we do that assignment. They get about a month for sketches, and then another month for finals. And then I get about 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes more, to do like emergency replacement art and drop everything into the actual frames, and then send that off to the story team so they can do flavored text and all that.
Cool. So, speaking of artists, we had a very big change with Emperor Edition when Charles Urbach, who'd been doing Strongholds for L5R for a very long time, stepped down from doing that position, and Noah Bradley stepped up with, I believe it was before the, no, it wasn't before the Dawn was his first set, it was Second City. And I just wanted to talk about it because they're there was and there has been a lot of people talking about sort of the differences between the two. And now that we're moving into Ivory Edition, we're obviously going to have two new Stronghold artists replacing Noah Bradley. So can you talk about sort of the challenges that have happened with Stronghold creation and how that process has worked out?
Yeah, so I mean, Noah was on board when we came on board, and it had been decided by upper management that the Stronghold guy sticks through the arc. If we can keep him through the arc, we keep him. And so Noah, there were some challenges. I mean, we got the feedback rather quickly from people that a lot of people felt that it wasn't detailed enough, that it was too far away, that it was foggy, that it didn't have the detail and kind of the realism of Chuck stuff. And so we tried to address that with Noah. We did try to work with him and direct him on that, and it was a difficult process. He's a busy guy, and he was really starting to come up in Magic and getting more and more work from other people, so he had less time for us. And by the end of it, I mean, it was pretty clear at that point that that we would just need to part ways. It just wasn't working for both sides.
Yeah, for those that haven't looked, Noah Bradley has done some of the dual color lands in the Ravnica block for Magic, and they were pretty astounding. And for those that did like his art, I definitely encourage you to check out that stuff because it was really cool.
Yeah, he's a talented guy. I think it just came to the fact that he was making more money elsewhere, and he was just kind of sticking with us out of a little loyalty, a little bit of maybe quick buck, and that's not really something that we want to stick with for a long period of time. And there were a lot of discussions about him over the year. I mean, I'm much more happy with the two we have now, Chris and Elena.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of gushing for both Stronghold artists online. Peter and John are back with us for this episode. Have you guys got any thoughts on Strongholds? Because, they're kind of a big part of the game.
I had my whole thing with the Strongholds, what made the decision of making them the whole two-sided cards instead of just that? Yeah, why did y'all go with the whole two-sided thing, I guess?
Well, I mean, that was mostly design's decision. The only decision I had involved with that was whether or not to use one artist or two. And honestly, it was a pragmatic decision. Elena couldn't do 18 Strongholds in the time frame we had. And I had Chris just kind of barely show up around them. And he had done his first initial test work with us. And I loved it. And I offered him the other 9. And just... yeah, we basically said, hey, you're really good. We want to get more work from you. Let's have you do Strongholds. So he jumped right into it and loved it, and yeah, that was that.
So did one do the front Strongholds and one did the back Strongholds, or did the...
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
I know that...
in general...
Go ahead.
Elena should be all the first turns, and Chris should be all the second turns, if I remember right.
It's really interesting because I haven't been playing L5R that long, but Elena's art really reminds me of Charles Urbach's style, and it's very sort of realistic, but realistic in sort of the L5R way. And Chris's art has just been, to me, it feels like it's this whole other almost universe he's depicting, but it's still recognizably L5R, just in this way that we really haven't seen before.
Yeah, one of them that just sticks out in my mind or whatever, just because recently looking at it, was the crab Stronghold art for both sides. If you said Chris did the
going
second turns,
second,
the crab Stronghold going second art is one of the ones that I really like so far.
I would be surprised if there aren't already playmats of that art.
And the going second spider art, I pulled that up, and yeah, I definitely see I was looking up some of the Chris Urbach Strongholds. I definitely see how the going first art definitely is reminiscent of some of that, but the second going spider is just... it's creepy. It's very Spider-esque. It's very evocative of the theme of fear.
Yeah.
I definitely think, like, does Chris have any experience with L5R beforehand, or?
He did some stuff in, I want to say, Aftermath, and maybe some stuff.
Yeah, he had
prior to
Nexus
that.
of Lies in Aftermath. I remember that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Supply should have been his first one, I think.
okay, so but before this whole Ivory stuff, he's new to the whole L5R stuff.
Nothing. I found him on DeviantArt and just saw some of his work and said, "Oh my god, that's awesome! I want to work with you."
Yeah, I've seen a few people from that work on L5R stuff on their DeviantArt sites, and just the rest of their art, and I'm all like, these guys are awesome. I love them.
So, and the thing I got Chris specifically because I wanted a bigger sense of fantasy. He does just really big sweeping scenes that are they're just gorgeous, and that's the thing we're trying to increase the overall fantasy of the world, because, and we had this discussion with the story team a while back about, you know, what's the rating of fantasy for L5R, and I kind of said, well, visually, I've probably got it set around, I don't know, 5 or 6. And story team was like, yeah, well, we want it more around 7 or 8. And
wow.
So we're trying to, we're trying to move that around. And
So would you say that you're trying to move it toward? I'm not toward more like a D&D-esque like fantasy setting, but just like a lot more fantastical, is, I guess that's a word.
It is.
Yeah, a more vibrant fantastical setting than it normally is depicted as, because, you know, with the art that you see like beforehand, you know, it's the very, you know, everything you look at is like, okay, yeah, that's very, you know, Japanese Asian-esque looking. And now again, looking at some others, like John here just pulled up the crab art, and I'm looking at
the gears.
yeah, well,
what you
it
really
basically
don't
looks
notice,
like the Caillou wall is what it looks
what you
like.
don't notice on that art, and you have to kind of blow it up to see it, is the giant army marching in at the bottom of the card. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's cool. But yeah, it's very it very much looks like a more I guess normalized fantasy setting instead of a Asian fantasy setting. From what
we're trying to blend those. We're trying to blend them. I mean, the world has a very high level of magic. Magic is everywhere in Rokugan.
Right.
You know, we're trying to bring that feeling more into the game. It's in the story, and it's in the mechanics, and we want it more in the visual.
It's interesting to me that the story team wanted the art to be more fantastical, because it's been my impression in the sort of eras that I've been playing the game that the story is much more like the art is a high fantasy Asian setting and the story is a low fantasy Asian setting.
Well, it's not that they want the story to be more high fantasy; it's they want the art to reflect the wonder of the world more than it has. I don't know that the stories are necessarily going to become more fantasy or fantastical. I mean, they already are pretty.
Well, I know there's a lot of people who are still sore over Cesaru and the Fire Dragon and how that whole thing went down.
But yeah, for my end, like, I've been trying to just slowly, maybe not as slowly as I wanted to, but I've been trying to edge it up a little. You know,
So
more magic showing up.
How has the process of doing clan champions changed over the course of the arc? You said you sort of really jumped on kind of after the initial stuff and Emperor had started, and the thing that was remarkable to me about Emperor Edition was that one artist did so many of the clan champions. Drew Baker did, I want to say, 4 or 5 of the clan champions in Emperor Edition. The Unicorn, he didn't do Phoenix, I don't think. He did Unicorn, Crane, Crab, because Daizu showed up. And he had, folks can always tell a Drew Baker L5R piece if Hida Daizu is in there somewhere.
It's true. True story.
So,
he loves Daizu.
But with Ivory Edition, we're seeing a lot more of sort of each clan has a different artist giving their take on the champion. And it really reminds me of something that I really dug, which was the alternate art clan champions that happened during Emperor Edition. So sort of how has this whole process, I guess, come about?
Well, I mean, the alt champions was basically just handed down from management. They basically said, we want alt champions. There's not too many people that can do a ton of high quality art all at the same time. So getting one person to do all 9 is just insane. Even getting 2 people to do, divide up all 9 was really hard in Emperor. It was more of a practical choice. It was, I want to just see what other people can do. There's some, I generally try and pick artists that I think are kind of up and coming. And the champion is basically their turn at bat. And if they knock it out, awesome. If they don't, I'm not going to use them next time.
So, are there any clan champions that you're particularly fond of with their art? I know for me, I've really loved the alternate art version of the Mantis Champion in Emperor Edition, and then
Adams.
That was Adam Schumpert, right?
Yep. Yeah.
It's the whole lightning and the lighting of the image and the pose that he has is just astounding. And I really, really like Sam Fliegel's take on the same character in Ivory Edition. But are there any that sort of stand out to you or that you've noticed that fans have responded really well to?
Definitely the Adam Mantis or Hiromi. Everyone seemed to really like that. There was a few people that said they didn't quite like it, but you get mixed responses across the board. It doesn't matter how good it is. There's almost someone that's like, I don't like that part.
I'm looking at it.
Everybody's a critic.
You're really. This is all. I don't think I've ever seen this card before, and it's pretty awesome.
Which one?
Alt Hiromi.
I really liked. I guess it was also Adam. I think it was Adam. Adam's Tsukimi.
Yeah, John was just looking at that.
I thought the Tsukimi from the base set. Is it?
Experience 4.
Well, that doesn't help.
Honor and Treachery.
Oh, the Experience 3.5. Oh, yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, so I like that one.
I kind of like this. Both of the XP4s too of Tsukimi.
Yeah. Oh gosh, let me pull them all up. Like it's so hard. I have so much art in my head that thinking of specific ones gets really hard. Like it's just
like I look at pictures all day. I can't break them all apart.
So let's take a look. Let's look at Emperor Champions. Let's talk about them. There's going to be one that I'm going to look at and go, oh my god, why didn't I say that right off the bat? Tony Fodi's Dairuko. I really like the Gates of Chaos Dairuko. Let's see here.
And that was the pack art. I mean, that was
the promo art for Gates of Chaos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one turned out really nice.
I really liked Conceptopolis's Dairuko, and then how that was staged with the Lion Guidance.
Yeah.
How you see sort of like the shot edge out more, and you see Akodo standing behind her, and I thought that was really, really very cool.
Yeah, I dug those. Let's see what else we got here.
There's yours.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one.
I've skipped too many. Let's see here.
What I really actually, and I know this is something you brought up in a couple of the art articles on L5R.com with Bayushi Natoshi. In the Emperor Edition art, we see him stabbing a guy, and this helps to represent his action of killing your own personality to dishonor someone. But in a later card, it might have been Embers of War, but we actually see the guy he stabs in his art. So, and that was something that I thought I didn't really see in Celestial Edition. Was in Emperor we see a lot more of different art in a set tells a story within that set. So was that like a decision that you made, or?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much me. They leave that up to me. What I try and do is make sure that I get characters that are. I try to get unique characters and just stick them in other cards doing stuff. Because it's easier on the artists to have someone that's already established to try and throw into a card, and it's better for the game. Like you see characters you like more than once. You know, they're in the world. Makes the world feel more lived in. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll just like I'll give a character to an artist and say, all right, so let's see what traits does this guy have. This guy's like cavalry or naval or something. Then I'll look for a strategy card that involves naval or cavalry and try and give that same card to the artist and say, all right, also include this guy in this card doing this. And that just. Honestly, it's also me maybe being a little efficient because it's just easier. It's just easier to make the assignments that way. I find, anyways.
That kind of brings up a question for me. Is like, how much input do you have on the actual like layout of the art, or do you just kind of like tell the artist like, hey, go wild?
So if they're a really new artist, I tend to be really detailed with what I want from them. If it's someone that's established, I'll oftentimes just say, it's this guy, he's doing this, go nuts. It really depends on the artist. I try to get to know how they work, and some work better with that sort of, detailed approach. Others, they just want to be left alone and draw something.
I guess, okay, probably what would be like your best example of somebody's, I guess, like comparing like two of your previous artists or whatever, one that you had to really kind of direct and one that you really just said, hey, go nuts with.
Well, the easy answer on the just go nuts is Drew Baker. You can just tell Drew it's a Crane Clan samurai being a badass, and he will draw something awesome. An example of someone that I think I worked with more initially, and I have since had to do less and less, is Hector Herrera. So Alberto and Hector were fairly new when we first came on. We found that we needed to give them a reasonable amount of feedback on their sketches, their color work, and I think over time it's really shown the improvement between both of them. That at this point, we don't have to give them quite as much. I still like to give them a good description up front, but we don't have to do nearly as much direction on sketches and finals. And so they're a good example of someone that has progressed quite a bit, I think, artistically. But Drew is definitely the king of just tell him the clan and one word descriptor, and you get an amazing card out of it.
Well, I mean, he is. How many of the like really long running artists do we have left? It's him. It's Steve Argyle. Charles Urbach's last piece was all of the Yodotai cards in Gates of Chaos.
Yeah, Charles still does work like every other set. Drew is technically retired from L5R, although
technically
I've been talking to him a little bit on the side, trying to get him to come back, and we might have something worked out in the future.
Hookers and blow, man.
This is why you need to go to Gen Con. That's where you can set up the hookers and the blow.
Steve is kind of hit and miss. Steve kind of gives me art maybe once every 4 or 5 sets. April still likes to do work, but she only wants me to give her work. April Lee. She really only wants work when it's something that I feel like is really suits her. So, for example, the Celestial of.
Kurohito?
What's his face? Yeah.
Kurohito.
I mean, we've got Prof. Prof has been, he's been with him forever. Paul Herbert.
I will say, Prof originally, I really didn't like his style when I first started in the game, but as I saw more of it on not Rattlings, I fell in love so hard.
Yeah, and he actually kind of got frustrated because he kind of got typecast as the rattling guy. And so every time I talk to him, he's like, "Yeah, no, that'd be great. Just let me do something that's not rats, and that would be cool."
Of course, you have all the rat players who want Prof back.
Yes. But yeah, we've tried to. Prof is the sort of guy that you really need to give something. If you give him something that kind of inspires him, you'll get some really good work.
Do you have any examples from Emperor Edition?
Well, I didn't make the assignments for Emperor Edition.
Well, I mean the arc as a whole, not just
for the arc. Let's take a look here. Let's use the old Oracle of the Void here.
Oracle of the Void for all your L5R research needs.
I'm not kidding, man. This thing is a godsend. I use this thing so much. It's basically like one of my saved tabs. When I open a browser,
It's your homepage.
it opens this up. It's just alright. Sets legality. Emperor.
And you can advance search
my
by
login
artist.
lets me see stuff that's not even out yet, which is awesome.
That is good to know. If you wouldn't mind sharing that login, that would be great.
Not so much. So here we go. Asako Kyoto. He's also in Anchored in Earth. Like I thought those were just really cool cards. He really liked the concept of like this Earth mage that has seen the Earth turned to dust and then abused, and he's just become this righteous vengeance sort of guy, and he summons this Tetsubo out of the Earth to go crush the people that dared defile the Earth.
Yeah, Kudo. I'm a Phoenix. I was playing Phoenix Inquisitors when I got into Emperor, and Kudo was one of my favorite cards, and the art on that was definitely sweet. So
yeah, and you'll notice that the cards are fairly tied into each other. That's the reason he's on Anchored in Earth is because his ability and the card's ability are really similar. That's not something that came through me, jammed to me through design or anything. It was just me going, oh, well, those are really similar. I'm gonna go ahead and put him into both of those.
I really liked Hida Chiure. I think he was in Torn Asunder. He was the tiny berserker.
He's chopping the guy's ankle.
Yeah, the giant like Oni. He's just going in.
I came back to that later and went, man, that is a really big Oni. Just thinking about it, it's like, holy crap, that thing is just gigantic. That's a frost giant. That's what that is. So let's see what Prof
you said
also like Ikoma Hikage.
The Ikoma Daimyo. I was surprised that he was tapped for a character like that.
I thought it would be cool to give him something a little more high profile. Prof is like the rank and file guy that just he doesn't get a lot of high profile cards, but I think he's more deserving of it than some people give him credit for. And we got the description for Hikage that was basically like, yeah, he's just kind of a sourpuss, and he's really honorable, but he's just a little insufferable and a little cranky. And, I figured Prof would be able to do that really well.
Yeah, it's. I've actually talked a lot about. We talk a lot about the art because a lot of us get really excited with new L5R art, and Prof has come up. To me, he's sort of like the Jack Kirby of L5R, in that his style is very distinct from every other L5R artist.
Oh yeah.
And it seems to me like so much of the setting, when I think of sort of like an angry looking crab guy doing something, I sort of, that image is in Prof Herbert's style. When I think of a lot of the crazy Shadowlands monsters, it's in Prof Herbert's style, and it's really subtle, but because he's been with the game for so long, that he has, and it's such a distinctive style. None of the Magic guys really have it. No other Alpha R guys really have it.
Oh yeah, no, you look at Prof and you know it's Prof.
And so when people have asked, what's sort of the most distinct artist, I mean, not to discount Steve Argyle or Drew Baker or April Lee or all of the other truly phenomenal artists L5R has had over the years, but like, if I would really want like one guy to do like all the art for my clan, I would want it to be Prof.
You should tell him that. You should go meet him at Gen Con and tell him that.
I did. I tried to. I was at the artist alley, but he wasn't. He wasn't there. I wanted to.
Oh yeah, this year he didn't have a booth. That was a bit.
He had a booth, but it was really tiny, and
yeah, it was like a wall. Basically.
Yeah. He didn't have like what Drew or like Steve had lines around the entire hall to go see him. It was insane.
Yeah, well, Steve's not even in the artist alley anymore.
Yeah, he's his own thing right now, sort of situated geographically near it. It was his line was insane. The Magic guys go nuts for Steve.
Yes.
But I do think Steve enjoys the L5R guys more. I'm going to go ahead and state that one.
Yeah, well, and he's talked about it, and like the L5R guys are a little more personable. It's more like it's less of a fanny thing and more of like a you're a part of our community thing. If that makes sense.
It does. That is really one thing, and that's one thing Charles Urbach, we spoke at Gen Con, it's something that he brought up that really differentiates the game from Magic or the RPGs or anything, that when you do art for L5R, you kind of become a part of this larger L5R community, and you kind of share in a lot of what they experience.
Yeah, I agree. L5R is a heck of a community.
So speaking of like the various artists and everything like that throughout the whole Emperor Edition thing, is there like one specific card art that like stuck out to you that you looked at it and you just kind of got this, what the hell is this, but like in a good way?
What the hell is this? But in a good way.
What art did you fanboy over? I guess is what Peter is trying to say.
I guess like this is really, really awesome, but really, really strange at the same time.
As he scrolls through Oracle.
Let me go check out the Oracle of Void.
All 2,000 something cards in Emperor Edition.
But I mean, like, was there
that much?
Was there like somebody's art or whatever? I mean, we've been looking at the art and everything like that, and there's some artists that are obviously already like really phenomenal and everything like that in their stuff. But is there just like one that you got that you're just all like, oh my god, this is like the best thing I've ever seen?
Yeah, I would say Ikoma Ayumu's Experience.
Oh, that
I got
one.
that from Diego, and I was like, holy shit, that's awesome.
That guy.
Experience.
That's
one of my favorites. That's definitely was a very good piece of art.
Yeah, that's really cool. Diego, I am a big fanboy of Diego. Like Shiba Mitsushen from Honor and Treachery. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that card. Love it.
I will state this. This is not meant to distract from anybody, but it is hard to make Ikoma Ayumu not look badass. Like the one-armed lion with the enormous lion shoulder podron.
Yeah.
Really helps to sell himself, I think.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
So were there any, sort of like Ayumu, were there any other pieces of art that you thought were sort of big hits with throughout the arc?
Yeah, I think the what's his face? We kept calling him Darth Shishoro or something.
The Yogo guy in Honor and Treachery?
Yeah, Darth Yogo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot his name.
Haruto, Yogo Haruto.
Yeah, that one was definitely a big hit. Everyone seemed to really like that.
I would love to see him come back because I was like, this art is completely wasted all over the place.
Yeah, really. He was one that I looked at it. I looked at him and was like, why is this guy not a bigger villain in the series right now?
or at least a daimyo.
I mean, gosh, we've talked this long, and the name Mario hasn't come up. But you know, a lot of Mario stuff, you know, just gets tons of traction and lots of popularity.
It's for anyone who has seen Mario Wibisono's art, that is not surprising at all.
No, I pulled up Asako Uzuna XP, and he did that art, and that was...
I think a lot of folks were turned on, because Wibisono actually did art, I think, at the end of Celestial Edition.
Yeah, it did some items, and then he started doing a few personalities.
But I remember, like, the first time I heard a lot of people start talking about him by name was the Master of Fire, Isawa Koiso.
Yeah.
Yes.
She actually has a villain keyword.
Good one.
I didn't know that was a keyword.
Yes, it is.
There's about 9 cards that have that keyword spread over 5 personalities.
It would actually be kind of cool, because they in Celestial Edition they had a hero theme for Crab and Lion. It would be cool if Spider and Scorpion got a villain deck.
That would be kind of cool.
Anyway, that's a discussion for our next podcast.
But no, Mario's art, I actually was trying to figure out what the art was on Book of Fire, and it was Koiso.
Yep.
And when I found that, I was like, I looked up the guy, I was like, oh wow, this guy just has done some beautiful pieces.
He also did the sort of first version of the deciding moment, where we see Iwako kind of ascending to be the Empress. That was his work as well.
Yeah, that was the 10,000 card one, right?
So that actually brings up a great topic. The 10,000th card was a really singular moment in L5R history. It's definitely a milestone for the game by any metric, and it had 9 different versions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, here's one with Kali Ma. There's the Second Day of Thunder, or is that the First Day of Thunder?
Second Day of Thunder.
Yeah.
Sudao's Death.
Waco.
Kisada Returns.
There's Sudao's Death, Kisada Returns.
I've seen the sketches for Kisada Returns. Oh yeah, the Cons March one was great.
And the kids, the Kamiya's children.
Oh yeah. Poor Fu Lang and Shinjo.
And the I'm guessing that's the corruption of the air dragon. It's the shadow
Birth
dragon.
of the Shadow Dragon.
Yep.
What we called it.
So how hard was it to get sort of everything in line for that card? Because I understand a ton of work went into it.
Yeah, that was a bit tricky. Yeah, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff on that was mostly just like fighting and arguing over budgeting. Be like, I want to pay them millions of dollars, and them saying, no, you can have $5. Fine, only $1 million. You can have $10. Yeah, that was fun. We got into contact with some older artists that we hadn't seen a whole lot of from. So we tried to stick with people that were current with the game, that were just in good standing and really loved by the community. And we did a lot of reading. We tried to read up on all the stories.
Oh wow!
Get the details right, and I mean, even with all the reading and research we did, I mean, we still got a thing or two wrong here or there. It's just, it was the other thing about it was that it was quick. We kind of had the idea and we started ramping towards it. I would have preferred to have had more lead time on it, I guess is what I'm saying, but you work with what you have, and really enjoyed what we got out of it.
So we've talked a lot about, we've obviously been gushing over the art, but there have been a couple of pieces in Emperor Edition that have sparked, I think controversy is the right word.
Yeah.
Steve's Bayushi Kachiko in Coils of Madness had a huge thread in the L5R boards talking about how it was a betrayal of everything the character was, and
that one was really divisive.
Yes. Though I would say very close was the Shadow Dragon in, I want to say it was Embers of War.
Genzamen, yes.
Yeah. Not a lot of players like the Genzamen, it seems.
Yeah, we were trying to find a good place for him, so we didn't want to just drop him, but we couldn't be giving him human beings anymore.
I follow him on DeviantArt when I go on DeviantArt.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Udon comics and the Udon art books. I have, for example, all of the Udon Street Fighter books. I really, really like Genzaman's style, but I can see how it contradicts with a lot of how people view L5R.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely my thing. It was like I definitely like his art style, and it works for certain things. It works very well for Street Fighter stuff. It works very well for fan art and those kind of things. But it just doesn't jive, I think, with a lot of the stuff.
I would really disagree with that assessment, but I loved his version of the Shadow Dragon for
definitely.
what that version of the Shadow Dragon does.
Reminds me of a scene from Godzilla.
Yeah, it's a giant stompy monster because you look at the Shadow Dragon on that version of him, he's not tricksy, he's not subtle.
He's just there
He's going to destroy everything you love.
He's there to piss your Cheerios.
The idea was he's got his big old breath weapon of erasing you from reality.
So,
you will see it coming.
how does the art team kind of handle it when you have these sort of divisive issues, like the Shadow Dragon and like Bayushi Kachiko?
Well, we talk about it and we say, well, did we do something wrong? Is it that is it a vocal minority? Is it that we just need to pay more attention to this next time? We talk about it a lot. It's something that it's a continual improvement and it's a process.
Well, here's a question. You said the Kachiko had the whole thread, right?
Shadow Dragon had about 3 or 4 pages. Kachiko got up to, I want to say, 8 or 10 pages.
Okay, but how many people were actually discussing that in that 8 or 10 pages?
More than you would think, but less than it would seem. If that makes any sense.
And to be honest, like Kachiko, I fall a little bit on the side of saying, we should have done something different. It wasn't what my vision for the character was, but Steve is the other half of this team, and that was his call. I would have preferred something a little more refined and elegant, like Day of Thunder version. He wanted something a little more. Well, you can see exactly.
You can see what he wanted.
I don't know. I can definitely see. I really like the art just on both on a technical level and on a sort of continuity level, because we get this really big sense in basically everything that's written about Kachiko before the Day of Thunder that she is the ultimate cock tease, and she knows she's the ultimate cock tease. And
well, the thing that he was going for, and I've talked to him at length about this, and I respect what he was going for. It's just not the way I would have done it. He wanted a Venus flytrap, come over here. I'm dangerous, and you should know I'm dangerous. I'm luring you in.
But you want to come over here.
Whereas I guess my sense on the art was, this is the way Kachiko seems to, let's say, Doji Hoturi when he duels for her. This is the way Kachiko seemed to Shoju when he decided to, marry her. Right? This is not the sort of conniving mastermind Kachiko that we see depicted sort of per standard. She still is, but when she looks like that, you wouldn't even think that she would be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways to interpret it and look at it, and I think that's the great thing about art. And it's both the good thing and the bad thing. There's going to be people that absolutely hate some stuff. There's going to be people that love it. There's going to be people that read stuff into it that you never even intended. And that is all okay.
So there's been a couple of other kind of sort of promotional changes to the L5R cards during Emperor Edition. The first was that we saw the return of full bleeds. So we saw full bleed clan champions very early in the arc, but in Coils of Madness, we got to see a lot of full bleed art even for strategies.
Yeah. Holdings, everything really.
Yes. And there has been none too little discussion about how that all worked out. So can you tell us, Adrian, sort of how the process of making those full bleeds happened, and
are you going to continue doing it?
Well, that was again kind of a thing that came down from on high and said, hey, we want these to be full bleeds. And I kind of said, okay, well, there's some that work and there's some that don't. Can we just do the ones that work? Because we didn't commission these for full bleeds. By the very nature of full bleed, that means that some of them just aren't going to look good.
Right.
And we had this kind of back and forth and said, well, can we make them look better? What can we do? Oh, well, we can try and angle them differently. We can do this and that. There was some resistance back and forth. But in the end, we did go with it. And there's some that don't work out, but I think most of them are all right. There's definitely some that I just look at and I'm like,
I think we've discussed Colonial Dojo.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just some that just didn't work. And you know what? If you can't admit that the mistakes are made, then you're just lying to people. It happens. Not all of them were really perfect for full bleed. But, if it had been different, we'd have known. We'd have made them wider. We'd made them longer so that there's a little more interesting stuff to view towards the bottom.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have had someone upside down.
That is actually my favorite of the coiled full bleed.
Yeah, we were looking at this and Anakamasa upside down. It's just kind of like that kind of works.
I guess it suits him, but I probably wouldn't have done it if I had known I was doing full bleed. That it worked out is just great. That's
but
fine.
then you have like the aberrations full bleed where it's zoomed in on like blood jetting from his forehead.
Yeah. So we tried. We made the best of what we had. I guess is the.
And I think that for the ones that didn't maybe work out, we had stuff like the full bleed rings, which were phenomenal.
The false rings?
No, the full bleed ring of air, earth, fire.
Oh, you from the previous ones?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like those ones.
Which may be in all of my decks for Ivory because I'm not going to know what the text says anyway. So the other sort of big thing that's happened is that foils have come back later in Emperor Edition. So for those that aren't aware, L5R used to do foils for a very long time, and then they stopped in, I want to say, Celestial Edition.
Sounds about right.
And so there were no foil cards for the duration of Celestial Edition, but with Emperor Edition and starting with Coils of Madness, foil cards have come back. Though they're not foiled in the way that, say, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, or Magic cards are. The way that L5R cards are now foiled is that the Clan Mons on the card are foil and the card edges are foil. So can you talk a bit about sort of how foil came back and sort of what the decision was to sort of make them kind of how they are now?
Well, I wasn't really involved in that. That's actually Brian did most of that. I remember the conversation basically was, can we have foils back? No. Can we please? No. What if we do it this way? Maybe. Show me. Foils are tricky. They're hard to pull off. They're really expensive. They're the question of whether or not it's worth it, I guess, is what was getting batted around a lot. And Brian really fought to try and bring him back to add a little more, collectability to certain cards. And my part, so remember I was telling you earlier how I had to go through all the frames and fix them, repair them. Well, foils are based off of the layers, so that's one of the reasons I had to do that is because the foils came back with coils. And so just having to go through and repair all of that and then get it so that we could actually have foil masks, which is what's used as part of the process to lay down the foil over specific sections and not all of it. That was a big reason I had to go in and clean all those up, that we needed the layers and all we had were the flat frames at that time. So yeah, my part in the foils was painful and horrible, and I don't want to ever do that again.
Going through a little post-traumatic stress syndrome there for it.
Oh man, you have no idea. Like, and that's the joke. We have the joke is that if we ever have to mess with the frames again, I'm gonna have Nom flashbacks.
Has there been a discussion of changing the foil patterns in some way? Like, for example, when Magic does their foils, they do foil patterns based on each card they foil. And then for the really rare cards, like I think they have the ultra rare,
The mythic rares, yeah.
mythic rare, they go really all out. For example, in one recent card, they actually foiled just the armor of a certain planeswalker, and it looked amazing. So has there been any conversation about sort of maybe foiling parts of Elvivar cards in that way, or are we going to sort of stick with our more unique take on the clan mons and everything?
I'm not aware of any changes. Doing anything with foiling is just a really intense process, and I don't know that we have the bandwidth to do that. Magic is obviously the big kid on the block. They can do that sort of stuff. I don't know if we're there yet. I certainly haven't heard any talk about doing anything like that.
Move to full bleed foils. There you go.
Well, what used to happen, and this is one of the reasons they stopped
I remember
using
seeing
foils.
I thought I saw a full bleed foil Ring of Void at one point.
Well, what they used to do with the foils was they would just foil the entire card.
Right.
So, but with whatever foil they were using, it actually caused the cards to bend in.
Yeah.
The longer time went on, and that's why L5R foils started going away, was because people would collect them, and then you'd start getting all these U-shaped cards because of the foil process.
In the full foils, they would rub off, and you'd lose, text and art. So, the foiling is complicated and has lots of potential pitfalls. Is a reason that the company is leery about doing a lot of it.
That being said, I did love the foil clan holdings in Emperor Edition and the foil traveling peddler that they released.
I like the Suzume I traded you.
Oh, Suzume Shindo?
Yeah. Yeah, the foil version of that I really liked.
I will say, and I don't know why this is, and I can't really explain it well. I really like foil cranes more than I like foil other, like, non-cranes.
Well, they're supposed to be sparkly.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
They're pretty birds.
Pretty bird. I can't explain it, but, like, crane foils just look the best. I got nothing else.
That could just be a coloring issue, it just foils really well.
It's all the bright blues and everything. The pretty blues.
Stop judging me. All right.
Judging you so hard, Maji.
So, on the whole, Adrian, how do you think Emperor Edition has gone out as far as the art has gone?
I felt pretty good about it. I had one set where... So the thing to understand about me is I am constantly terrified that I've ruined the game. Like, every set, I get done with it, I'm like, oh god, it's horrible, it's all terrible, just burn it, don't even print it. And then Brian has to come to me and be like, no, it's good, it's good.
Give you the consoling pat on the back, a little shoulder rub. It's like, it's okay, it's okay.
I freak out, man, I really do. And so every set I get like this, and then I go to the forums and obsessively look at all the threads and like, oh, okay, no, they're not talking about the art. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, it's because they're more interested in the mechanics and they don't hate the art. That's why they're not talking about it. It's good, or they're not talking about it.
No, I feel your pain. For those of the audience that don't know, I am an artist and an animator and everything like that, so I go through all the artist pangs myself.
And then it's like, oh, they're talking about the art. Okay, they like it. How many people said they like it? Okay, there's this. This guy says he doesn't like it, but he says there's some good things. Okay, all right. And then I'll slowly start feeling better, and I'll go to a card where it's like, oh god, they're gonna hate this card. They are going to hate it. And I'll go to like, they like it. Oh, that's good. Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, good. All right.
What's funny is there will be 100 good comments, and then you'll read that one bad comment. And you'd be like, it'll completely erase all of the good comments that you just read.
Yeah, it kind of deflates you just a little bit. It's like, oh.
Why?
Overall, I think Emperor went really, really well. I had a great time doing it. We found some new artists that are great. We were able to bring back some older artists. We were able to try some cool things. I've really tried to, play with visual stories through that, that move through different cards, which I think has been really successful. People seem to really like that, which I do it because when I saw it, when I played, I really loved it. Overall, I think it went really well. There's some points where I think there were some pitfalls that we had to work through, but that's been a really great experience overall.
And what can Alpha Bar players look forward to in Ivory Edition? If there's anything you can talk about.
Yeah, are you bringing any new artists in or anything like that, or?
Well, I'm always trying out new folks. Every set, I try at least like one or two new guys out. And I found, for example, this woman named Kez, and she's pretty awesome. She's only done 2 pieces so far, but man, they're pretty sweet.
Are any of them out to us non-AEG folks yet? Nope.
No.
In fact, her first piece doesn't even show up till I think the second expansion.
Oh man.
But I actually found her at Gen Con. She came up and gave me her portfolio at Gen Con, and we talked for a little bit, and she showed a lot of potential. Gave her a card, and she really knocked it out. I thought she did just a fantastic job. So I'm going to start giving her more work. One thing I guess I can kind of tell you that I'm doing, I just barely started doing this, but I'm going to try and start offering higher wages for champion cards so that I can actually draw back talent that we've lost. So, for example, like pay enough that I can maybe get Capriati back, or lure Drew Baker back, or that sort of thing. And it will generally be specifically for champions, and maybe some promo. I guess marketing cards would be what you would describe it as. So hopefully that will work out, and I'll get enough backing from upper management that they'll say, yeah, this is cool, and we like what you're doing here. And if I get enough results from it, maybe I can even, my budget's increased, and we can throw a little more money towards very deserving artists.
So you heard it here, folks. Buy a lot of Ivory Edition so we can get Drew Baker back. Well, thank you very much, Adrian. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, but I think it's time that we all headed out. Thank you again for taking the time to chat with us about how the arc has gone, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you at Gen Con this year.
Yeah, if we can make it, we'll make it. We'll see. You got
to do it. Every Alpha Bar person's got to be there, man.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
All right. And with that, thank you all for listening to Breach of Etiquette. I'm Monjonioso. With me are John DiPietro and Peter Mindertsma. And we'll see you next time. Oots!
Banzai!
Banzai!